Good afternoon, Mr. Bawa. Congratulations. It's been almost a month since you joined SAP, and you did take a quasi-entrepreneurial route last 15 months, which was in a marketing technology space, but you decided to come back to a behemoth like SAP. What made you join SAP? What attracted you to SAP?
So thanks Annurag. Firstly, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for the welcome. And yes, I would have been surprised if you had not asked me that question, right? But frankly, lots of reasons for my move. And let me share with you my outside-in view. You know, what attracted me to the position at SAP. So firstly, and to be fair, SAP is one of the most revered enterprise software companies, as I call it, that has been able to maintain its competitive lead for several decades. And as you will agree, Annurag, it's one thing to reach the top, and it's totally different to remain there for decades at a stretch. And so personally, you know, I've had a lot of respect for SAP all through the years, and more so today with the amazing end-to-end portfolio of offerings that we have available for our customers. So that's the first point, when I view it from outside. Strategically, I think today SAP is at an inception point with the manner in which we are transitioning in becoming a true cloud company, which, as you know, is so very critical in today's age. So we are very well poised at SAP with some of our recent cloud acquisitions, like whether it's Ariba or Qualtrics or SuccessFactors or Concur, a whole host of them. So SAP is very, very well poised today to break into this space and, add to it that we have a series of differentiators today which cannot be emulated by any of the other players. Since very clearly we are the only ones that have a logical access to what I call the operational data, which provides us with a very, very strong competitive advantage in today's experience age or experience era, as you would like to call it. So that's the big picture outside in view when I look at SAP, what attracted me. And then when I come to India, right, the advantage India, because this is an SAP India subcontinent role, but India is clearly amongst the fastest growing markets for the company today. So it's a good place to be in. We are the lifeline for more than 11,700 customers in India. And as a nation and as a geography, and I'll talk about it, I've always been attracted because of the headroom to grow, and the attractiveness of India, as I call it, with our demographic dividend, millennial population, etc., etc., etc. So very, very good place to be in SAP India. Of course, it's all over the news. We've been ranked as the number one best places to work in India twice in a row. So it was 2018, 2019 consecutively that SAP India was number one. And of course, we do have the second largest establishment for R&D, the SAP Labs in India. So when I look at the whole value proposition, I think it was something I really couldn't ignore, and that's what attracted me into the company, Annurag.
Okay. Mr. Bawa, you worked in the forces, and since then, once you came out of the forces, you worked in the technology space. You worked with some of the leaders in their, so to say, specialized areas or niches. And you're no stranger to large technology companies or to work with large enterprises. Tell us, while you just took us through why you feel SAP is poised to kind of take the advantage of the current environment, why do you feel that SAP India is ideally poised to exploit the environment that exists post-COVID? SAP India did well, even in pre-COVID era. But why do you feel that post-COVID, SAP India is even more relevant?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your product and offerings are more relevant.
Yeah. No, so I'll club this for you. My initial thoughts. Look, one, we do have a 48-year-old history, a strong history of innovation, as you alluded to, right? Whether it's pre-COVID or post-COVID. So we have been witness to customers transitioning from the mainframe age to the client server era. Now, of course, taking on to the cloud. So we remain as an organization committed to our strategy, which is intrinsically to help every business run as an intelligent enterprise. So that's the big picture strategy for us. Now, we are a company today, and as I alluded to in what I call the attractiveness of SAP, we are a company today breaking that traditional mindset, and we are well on our way to become a true cloud company, writing history once again. And because of the differentiators that I alluded to, we are very well positioned today to become a leader in the experience age, which is what we are driving to achieve. I don't know, but even the most recent quarterly results that we declared some time ago were definitely worth calling out with the way we performed, even during the complications. And of course, it's not the best of times for any organization today, but we declared some very great results, successfully navigated this challenging environment. To probably what I would call delivering a better than anticipated quarter. It's very clear to me that customers are turning to SAP's intelligent enterprise to drive resilience, profitability, and sustainability. No surprise, even in the COVID time, to answer your point, that we saw a huge demand for solutions that increase what I call resiliency, right? So we saw a huge demand for that. We saw, a relevancy in our portfolio, whether it came to the commerce solutions, which was probably what I would call a blowout quarter in my parlance, stuff related to digital supply chain management. So we saw a lot of upside in those areas, even as we transcended the first few months of COVID. Anurag, back to you.
Thank you so much. Now, in many businesses, there has been a SAP and they've been knocked by new entrants, players that came up with a different offering, a new offering, more innovative offering, more affordable offering, more digital economy offering. In your space, why do you think SAP is kind of not impacted by new startups? You're in a very competitive space. Google, Facebook, Microsoft, they're all trying to get into enterprise in a big way. Some of them are already and they're all taking different routes to it. It's not the same route as SAP. SAP is about integration. It is about data on a click. It is about, it's about being more efficient and optimizing everything you do and everything being available at the click of a button. A dashboard that allows you to run the company from the dashboard. So tell us, why do you feel SAP needn't worry about new, smaller players, because you focus on large enterprises, right? So give us a sense, what makes you confident about the future?
Fantastic. And so let me just start. So I think you know so much about SAP from the outside, Anurag, probably more than I know in a month. But look, at SAP, we offer applications and services to our customers which are relevant to organizations across, I think, about 26 industries and 7 lines of businesses across varied delivery models, which is what resonates with clients and customers today, whether it's an on-premise offering, a cloud offering, a hybrid offering. So we have it all. And like I started with, we have perhaps one of the best end-to-end portfolio of offerings, which is what we serve our customers today. So, and adding on to that, what we do today is we help our customers, and you again mentioned it, we help them manage their entire digital supply chains from design through planning, manufacturing, delivery, operations, end-to-end of the spectrum. We are bringing to the world a lot of innovations, whether it's the industry cloud, the SAP cloud platform, the business technology platform, which probably is what keeps us more and more relevant, which helps us to sharpen the saw at any given time, Anurag. And just taking an example, if I was to talk about the industry cloud very simply, without getting into technical jargon, but today all industries are transforming, more so with COVID, right? So every new business model does require a lot of data. It requires a very, very strong integration into the backbone of the data, which in many cases is SAP's core applications that you mentioned. So what we are doing today with the industry cloud, we are building modular industry applications to help our customers stay competitive, to help them stay ahead in their industry by adapting to new business models, right? So that's just one example of how we are at the cutting edge of innovation. I can go on with stuff like the business technology platform, but one more point that I want to mention, because you referred to it. So it's not just the enterprises, right? So in India today, we've got more than 11,700 customers as I speak, with more than 80% of them, Anurag, which are SMB customers, right? Which we call
small and medium business.
The small and medium businesses. So there's a massive footprint that we at SAP have for the SMEs. And I don't know if it's top of mind for you, but I'm sure it is for your team. But we recently launched a few months ago what we call the Global Bharat program, which was very, very important for India, because it essentially enabled the Indian MSMEs, as we call it, to become globally competitive. And what we want to do at SAP is we want to start equipping them with digital technologies. So what we are doing for the Global Bharat, for MSMEs in the country, we are helping them by adopting 3 big initiatives. Number one is, how do they gain access to global marketplaces, right? And I always believe India's time will come. India's time has come. We are almost at the cusp. But how do we provide them access to global marketplaces? Secondly, how do we digitally skill workforces? And third, how do we help them digitally transform business? Now, I can blow this up for you, but it's one of our key initiatives and one of the key programs that we are doing for the MSME sector, for the SME part of India, in addition to those 26 industries and earth-shattering, groundbreaking innovations that I mentioned to you earlier. Anurag, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Bawa. The SME, the small and medium enterprises, or the small or medium businesses, of course, are the backbone of the Indian economy, and no wonder a lot of them are your customers. But dare I say that today they have the option of other offerings which are robust, which are more palatable on price, and are homegrown, apart from offerings which are global. What do you have to say to that?
Look, it's a question to me about how we remain relevant, how quickly we can get back to the drawing board, how quickly, whether it's individuals or organizations, Anurag, right? So how flexible we are in terms of mindset is most important. And when I look at SAP, it's not that we are sitting back and resting on our crown jewels, right? I think at any given time, we are back to the drawing board, we are reinventing, we are focusing, and I think we're doing a very, very good job on a variety of those aspects. Like I mentioned, one of the latest things that which to me is going to be a game changer, and we've recently launched it, right? A few months ago, which is what we call the business technology platform. Right? And I'll take a second, but the SAP Business Technology Platform is a unified platform. So simply put, it's a one-stop shop which combines a lot of our offerings under a single reference architecture. What does that mean? That means it's simple to use, it's unified, it's a one-stop, no complexity to it. It provides our customers with innovations such as, all the buzzwords. So with the innovations such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, next generation of data management, analytics, all of that available at a single point, unified fashion, easy to use, and yet in a modular fashion. Now, why I brought that out, in addition to the industry cloud that I spoke, yes, there will be small point solutions that will keep mushrooming, which is the way the world moves. Absolutely, some of them are absolutely fantastic in their offerings. But when you look at an enterprise, or when organizations come to, they need an end-to-end digital transformation, just for example, right? And they would ideally like to come to a provider like SAP that has a broad spectrum and has a huge portfolio of offering, so that we can provide them with architectural nuances, interoperability, all of that, so that they remain nimble, so that they remain agile, especially in what we are seeing today, pandemic, post-pandemic, and this era, Anurag.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bawa. Today in technology, we are talking since the time I was a technology student 30 years back, and then even in my business school, we talk about the total cost of ownership. The TCO was always very important. We are moving in technology from a capex heavy model to an opex heavy model, or an opex light model, dare I say, to an opex light model.
Yeah.
Now, Tell us, how is that shift happening? Is it big enough? Do you see it become accentuated? And what are you doing at SAP to leverage that shift? First of all, is that shift happening?
Yes, yes, and Anurag, I started with it that we are today at SAP we are at that cusp, right, where we are transitioning into becoming a true cloud company, which is what you're talking about, because cloud is then nimble, it's then agile, it's then OPEX heavy versus CAPEX heavy, all the things that you mentioned, right? So point number one, I think very clearly, if I was to look at the priorities and how we're going to get there in my head, right, and early days, but firstly, I think the most important is exactly what you spoke. How do we shift to becoming a true cloud company? Now, we've got a lot of acquisitions, like I mentioned. We've got a spate of offerings which the world loves, right? And I mentioned our Q2 results. So I've experienced this firmly. I believe that cloud technologies are key to make or to help businesses make use of the big data and to develop new business models. So yes, in order to do justice to organizations, what I call the both internal and external stakeholders. So companies need to quickly harness digital with the nimbleness that I'm speaking about, for which cloud is critical, for which SAP today is at the cusp or is at the helm and is trying to lead the pack on that sphere. So is it important to us? Do we see that happening? Absolutely, yes. So that's in fact the first priority that I have, even when as we make changes in India. The second, of course, if I was to quickly allude, is customer success, and that doesn't go away. Whether I'm an on-premise perpetual model, whether I'm an OPEX heavy cloud model with subscription annualized recurring revenue, I think customer success is more paramount than ever for us. And personally, for SAP India, we have taken numerous steps. We have numerous programs to ensure that we listen and we take action on our customer feedback. And that's work in progress. You'll see a lot more happening while we've already raised the bar several times. But for us, the aim, if I was to put it, is how do we further elevate that experience so that not only do they have access to the right offering, but they also have, the customer starts seeing a lot of value from the TCO that you alluded to and the investments that they made in SAP. So that's the second piece. And the third I already mentioned for us big is how do we grow with a combination of customer success and the cloud that you mentioned, the simpler, nimbler offerings for customers. How do we grow? How do we help India SME to grow? And how do we make India the number one in the world, if I could say, because SME today does contribute to 29% of our GDP with 50% of the country's exports just out of the MSMEs, right? So while we have 80% of our business in terms of absolute numbers, in terms of volume, how do we make that the biggest, one of the big arenas for us? That's the third big thing on my head, Anurag. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you so much. I want to ask you, I know you've just joined, it's your 5th or 6th week at SAP. I'm sure you're in the process of ideating, brainstorming, talking to your senior leadership team. But if you had to envisage a 5-year journey, if I talk to Mr. Bawa in 5 years at SAP, what would have he achieved for SAP India? What would the team SAP India would have achieved?
That's a good one. That's close to my heart. Okay, so look, India's scale, right? And I always talk about India as a nation, as a country. The India scale is extraordinary, right? So I've personally, Anurag, and we've spoken several times in the past few years, I've personally always been very, very amazed and patriotic towards India. Just the resilience and the passion that we as a country, that we as a nation hold. So India also, continues to remain the fastest growing large economy in the world. And I remain very, very bullish on what we as a nation have to offer to the world in the years to come, right? So not wanting to conjecture, like you said, it's a little early with any forward-looking statements. But what I would love to say is that, with a lot of confidence that we will take SAP India to its rightful position in the world order. Okay, with some of the priorities that I mentioned, and I'll tell you what makes me more confident and optimistic. in getting SAP India to its rightful place. Firstly, I think we are already doing a very good job in SAP India, and I'm hugely impressed with the teams, their passion, just their commitment and the vision towards the company. Therefore, for us, it's now going to be about raising that bar, the proverbial bar that we keep talking about. How do you raise the bar? Taking India to, the logical place in the world order, Anurag.
Thank you, Mr. Bawa. Now, let me talk on leadership briefly. You're among those few India Inc. CEOs, leaders who have served the country by being in the forces. Before you embarked on your corporate career and all of it in the technology space, tell us what can corporate CEOs learn from the forces? What have you learned from your stint in the forces that you have been able to use in your role as the leader of companies, currently at SAP India, but now and in the past?
Yeah, okay. So you're taking me down into what I call a memory lane because it was more than a decade and a half back, in fact more, since I left the army. But Anurag, I can say this with a lot of humility, but let me start by saying that, everything that holds me in good stead today is because of the initial years that I had in the army, in the academy. And I say this with a lot of pride, right? Because and I've been known to say this, that the Indian Army today is clearly the best army in the world, right? And the Indian soldier is the most loyal, the most dedicated professional you can find anywhere. So that's point number one. I think the years of, the military training between NDA and IMA really helped build resilience and fortitude. Perhaps also taught us in those very early years how to have what I would call a never say die attitude, right? If I was to go back down memory lane, I still remember the first time I entered the National Defense Academy gate, right? So the main gate has maker of men. I'll repeat it has maker of men massively written across the gate at the very entrance gate. And I remember the first time seeing it with fear and awe. I was young. I was younger than I am today. So I think I was about a little short of 17 years. When I entered India for the first time. But to answer your question, if I was to see some of my learnings that have helped me good in my corporate avatar, right? So some of those would revolve around, firstly, I think very clearly is the power of teaming and collaboration. What we used to in one life, in an earlier lifetime call bonhomie and camaraderie, but I think I would call it teaming and collaboration here. And just the understanding that, no matter how good you are as an individual, it doesn't matter beyond the stage. You need to be able to instill a larger than life vision in people around you so that you can achieve a common goal, right? And that comes from the power of people. The only way you can scale, as you know, Anurag, is when you get people to row in the same direction. And that's when the magic starts to happen. So that would be the first piece. The second, if I was to, think about it, I think would be the discipline, just the basics of discipline, which probably for me got instilled at a very early age, right? And when I say discipline, it's nothing, with a lot of jargon. It's simple. It's just taking pride in the things that you do, doing them the right way, which to me translates into integrity. Right. And by integrity, I always tell my teams, irrespective of which organization, what I mean by integrity is simply just doing the right thing, doing what you say you would do, right? Especially when you are not being watched. So that's the second piece, I think, the discipline that I have been able to translate to a large extent into the civvy street or into the corporate world. And lastly, and I can't help saying this, but I've been an avid reader all my life, whether it was in the army, whether it's outside. I believe firmly that, all of corporate strategy or most of corporate strategy emanates from military strategy. So whether it is Sun Tzu's Art of War, whether it's being adapted to the boardroom or not, or any other basic learnings, that we study in as the 1.0, right? To know yourself, know your terrain, know your ecosystem, know your enemy. something that I've used every day in my corporate career. So no rocket science there, but I think a lot of learnings, a lot of the initial foundation years is what are holding me personally and in good stead in the civvy street. And just to give that a flavor, I guess a lot of my patriotism personally, right? For India, when I talk about India, when I talk about SAP India or in Adobe India in my last life, in my last avatar, a lot of the patriotism stems from those early years. It stems from those early years because I do think that India is the land of humongous opportunity, right? I do believe that we have a huge headroom to grow as a nation, and I think our time is yet to come, Anurag.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bawa. I just want to ask you my penultimate question. If there are three, you alluded to that in what you said before, but if you had to predict three technology trends that are already kind of starting to be visible, what would those be?
Absolutely, and that's a good question. But yes, I think I have covered a lot of it. But let me try and put it down in bullet points for you, Anurag. Right. So first, of course, is this whole shift to the cloud that I'm talking about. So very, very clearly, we see this continued demand, in fact, an increased demand for cloud infrastructure services, a potential increase in spending on specialized software. And we are seeing this closely even in the last few months. There is an increased demand, of course, for communication equipment, telecom services. Obviously, as organizations like yours and ours encourage people to work from home, schools are at home, courses are online. Obviously, there is a humongous demand. But so firstly is the digital landscape. I would say I see this evolved. I see this top of mind. It's always been top of mind for CEOs in the last few years. But I think the last few months, what I have witnessed is a sense of urgency amongst the Indian conglomerates to embark very quickly onto their digital transformation journey, right? But very important, and I say this all the time, even to my teams, is how do we close the gap between strategy, digital strategy, and execution, which is one of the primary goals that we work at in SAP. So it's good to have, but at SAP, our competency lies not only in delivering solutions and services, but also helping people provide those innovations, helping them anticipate the challenges, opportunities, changes that are anticipated in the future. So point number one is the digital landscape. Second, I talked about the internet connectivity, and I won't get into 5G and what's on the anvil, but I just think that as some of these latest technologies find their way, start proliferating, we'll see the surge of smart devices being connected to the internet. We're already seeing a lot of it. We'll see a lot more of it post-COVID, whenever, I wouldn't even say the new normal, but yeah, the new world and the way we live in it. And
new abnormal. I call it the new abnormal because there's nothing normal about it.
New abnormal. Oh, I love that. I've not heard that one earlier, but new abnormal is good. But I think everyone's realizing that these trends are not here just to talk about, but they need to be harnessed. They need to be coupled. And in India we are seeing a lot of that. The rise with the younger digital age startups. Utilizing the AI, ML, big data in a beautiful manner. So that's what I see as trend lines, Anurag.
Thank you so much. My last question. COVID for a lot of people has been challenging on life side and the livelihood side. You and me are blessed, we're privileged, and we're grateful to God. But what is your message for hope? Because you've seen a lot more than just being in corporate India. What is your message for hope to the people who have despair, who are lost in anxiety, who are, dare I say, depressed? Because it's really a VUCA world. It's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. What do you have to sort of say to people that can give them hope for future?
Yeah, so clearly these are not the easiest times, Anurag. While we can sit here and talk about growth numbers and what we are doing as organizations, but if I was to get into on the other side, it's not an easy time. Let me leave it like that. And I think to me, not just me, but for for most leaders today, right, the most important thing, and I'll come to your point, is empathy and understanding, right? Just the fact of trying to appreciate what's happening in the other person's world. That's very, very important. Trying to see things through the lens on the other side. I've always been a diehard, passionate, irrespective of wherever I've been. I've always believed that good times don't last, right? Bad times don't last, but or tough times don't last, but tough people do, right? So the resilience and the fortitude that I was talking about becomes paramount. Empathy from leaders, from people managing things on the other side becomes super critical as we try and navigate these waters together. Just viewing it from their lens. One of the things that I believe in very firmly, and that I've been trying to do, Annurag, is communicate. Right. So I think there's nothing that can take the place of communicating with people, communicating with teams, communicating with people at home, whether it is the children at home, whether it's spouses. It's a different time. It's a trying time for everyone. We are not used to this, which is what is so different. But my message, the one message to people out there is, this is a tough time. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. And we are together. Like when I look at SAP. We have leveraged the power of technology. We have designed personalized interventions based on people's needs, based on employee needs, in order to help them live a balanced lifestyle. Annurag.
Thank you so much. At this point, I want to bring in my colleagues Jyotsna and Abhishek to ask you one question each. First, Jyotsna, and then colleague Abhishek.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
You mentioned a while ago that you're an avid reader. Could you tell me what is one of your all-time go-to favorite books that you've been
Jyotsna, you're taking me down memory lane now. Had you not said one of your all-time favorite, had you asked me, Kulmeet, what are you reading today? I would have given you a Harari latest or 20 lessons for. I could have rattled off 5 names. But if you ask me all-time favorite, and just being transparent, I think it was in my early days, and I used to be very fond of, let's say, a Khalil Gibran. I grew up on a lot of Ayn Rand. I grew up on a lot of Richard Bach in those days, right? And I've spoken a lot about it. So an all-time favorite would probably be a book called Illusions, right? Which I read very, very early. I think I was 16 years old. Another all-time favorite could be Anthem by Ayn Rand. Or the complete works of Khalil Gibran. I hope I answer your question, but don't start me off, otherwise I'll start quoting literature to you, I'll start poetry to you, but Jyotsna, those would be some of my favorite books.
Thank you.
Abhishek? And please don't bring Bengal into the You have no idea, Mr. Bawa. He brings it when he finds a connection.
Sat Shri Akal.
Good. I like that. That's a start.
Yeah. Sir, I have 2 questions rolled into one. So you are into next generation technologies like AI, cloud, data science and all. So how are you ensuring that these high-end technologies, you are creating jobs and not eliminating jobs, and you're creating skill development programs and all that stuff? How are you ensuring that? Number 2, I'm assuming that you have an R&D center in India. Do they contribute to your Indian operations or global operations? If global operations, if you can talk a little bit about that. What kind of groundbreaking solutions have they worked on? Your R&D center in Bangalore.
Yeah. Look, firstly, like I spoke about India, so very important, not just pandemic, but even prior to the pandemic, very important is how does the economy move? So while we are talking about health and safety and, things which are paramount today for us, from a medical standpoint, I guess we all have to think about the health of the economy, right? What are the plans for job creation, plans for job continuity? And of course, the impact of COVID will diminish medium-term growth prospects, okay? So it's needless to say that there are lots of mechanisms that we have within the country that are required today to strengthen our economy, mechanisms that are underway. Now, from our perspective, of course, like I mentioned, and you actually very nicely dovetailed it into your second piece of the question. We've got about 13,500 people of SAP labs sitting, and I may not have the exact number, Chaya can give it to us, but we have got about 13,500 people sitting here, right, in India. Yes, of course, they work for SAP globally, but it is the second largest establishment for us outside, from a global landscape. Now, all of that is creating jobs. We are touching upon some of the most amazing technologies. There are a lot of patents that come out of India. Some of the most, I spoke about some of the groundbreaking innovations that happen. Of course, that happens out of India. A lot of it is touched out of India. Not to say that it's holistically in India, but all of that again leads to, the whole job creation, the touching of the innovation. So to say that, look, are they working for India or are they working for global? My answer would be they're working for global and of course working for India, because the passion with which we are trying to grow the India business, to grow the impact that we have on India, especially in times like COVID, what SAP is doing in terms of its measures, whether it is CSR, technology, innovation, adoption, humongous measures that we are taking, right? So no surprise, like I said, that we are seeing a surge in the demand because we see India as a very promising market. So lots of things that we are doing in times of pandemic, whether it is from a hiring perspective, whether it is employee assistance, whether it is to help the economy as a whole grow. I hope I answered the question. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bawa. We wish you luck for your new role at SAP India, and we're grateful to talk to you and your team for talking to us at BW Business World. We look forward to talking to you soon again, and I'm sure by then you would have the full blueprint of what you want to do with SAP India over the next 3 to 5 years. Thank you for talking to BW Business World. Thank you.
Thank you, Annurag. Thank you to your team. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Chaya, thank you for organizing it and coordinating it. God bless you, Chaya.
Thank you so much, Chief.
Bye.
Much appreciated. Thank you, Kulmeet.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Bye, Annurag.
Bye.